Today marks a fresh milestone for US President Donald Trump, 100 days of his second term in office. It's been a period of action with a record number of executive orders which don't require the approval of Congress. Action too on some of his big election pledges like immigration and the economy, where we've seen trade wars intensify with his announcement of widespread tariffs. Mr. Trump has pushed the boundaries of executive power, particularly when it comes to those last two subjects that we mentioned, immigration and the economy, which were fundamental issues for his voters. Our North America correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, has more.
These border agents look for anyone crossing illegally. We are on the Rio Grande, the natural border between the US and Mexico.
The migrants created that trail right there, pretty much along this entire area. You'll see.
They created this to try and get through.
Right, yes, trying to find a weak spot in the infrastructure, trying to find their way through.
Coiled wire, floating barriers, and even alligators are some of the deterrents. They don't always work.
And here's a fresh cut, and if you can see, they haven't patched this yet, so this just happened, and this is what they're using to get through.
Agent Donaldson says it was tough during Biden's presidency.
When we were seeing 2,000 plus people crossing a day, it was very difficult. All of our resources were overwhelmed.
But now things have changed.
The numbers have dropped significantly from, catching 2,000 people a day. Now we're catching about 40 people a day. So we're able to push our resources out into these areas to give us the advantage to make apprehensions. Previously, we would do what was called catch and release. We're no longer doing that. We're providing that consequence and removing people as quickly as we can. It deters people from even trying to make that entry.
President Trump has called his actions here a success, but what happens on the border doesn't stay on the border. Fear of deportations has spread to universities. There have been high-profile arrests of international students critical of US support for Israel.
There's a lot of folks who aren't even feeling safe to go to their classes. I know one student, for example, who already chose to quote-unquote self-deport. Students are the heart of a leftist movement in this country, so if you want to get rid of that, go after the universities.
Do you worry about speaking out?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that it's a big risk, even though it's my right to do so. I'm pretty confident I'll probably lose my job in the next couple months to a couple years.
Here on campus, there are lots of international students and they don't really want to talk to us because they're worried about the repercussions. But I did talk to some American students and they said they have immigrant parents and so therefore they just don't think it's worth speaking out against President Trump's policies.
Polls suggest nearly half of Americans are happy with how President Trump is handling immigration, although they question some of the methods. He did make another promise to them.
We're going to end inflation very quickly. We're going to get those prices down too.
We've made our way to San Antonio. Aerospace and manufacturing are big industries here and do huge business with Canada.
This city has been hit by tariffs, but plenty of people here tell us that they are standing by President Trump.
He said what he was going to do, and he's following through on his promises.
I think it would be for the better good of the economy in the future.
But go to the local supermarket, and there's only one thing on people's minds.
The cost of living right now, it's a lot.
All of my stuff that I buy is up higher. The 100 days he's been in there has been terrible.
President Trump says he's going to bring the cost of groceries down.
Yes, I hope so.
Do you think he will?
Yes, he's doing a great job. Yes, he is. He's doing an awesome job. I feel like Trump is going to bring this country back to where it needs to be.
President Trump says he's securing the US. His critics fear he's walling the country off from the rest of the world. As his first 100 days come to a close, does America first mean America alone? Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Texas.
And we can cross now to San Antonio and join Nomia to talk a bit more about President Trump's 100 days in office and the view from Texas. Nomia, good to see you. Really interesting in your report to see one of the people you spoke to describe being nervous about talking to you. And as you mentioned, some people didn't want to talk to you at all, appear on camera. In the land of the free, how many people are worried, therefore, about freedom of speech?
Well, I think when it comes to the issue of immigration, it is seemingly a big issue. So it's this fear of deportation. So we know that Donald Trump promised that he would carry out the biggest mass deportation in US history. And so in some respects, he's under pressure to deliver on that. And we are seeing these instances of students being arrested, being accused of anti-Semitism, for example, for their protests against the war in Gaza or criticising Israel, and those cases are still ongoing. So at the campus we were at, there were concerns amongst students there in terms of talking out about anything. It's also worth mentioning here in Texas, you have a huge Latino population, and 55% of Latinos here, it's a very conservative state of course, voted for Donald Trump because they believe that he was the right man when it comes to economy and immigration. However, many of them are concerned about how he's going about with immigration, particularly, especially when it comes to those immigrants in the state who are undocumented but don't have any criminal records. And so there's a sense of fear, I would say, around that.
And Nomia, how representative do you think Texas is of the overall view of President Trump? Obviously, we saw one man you spoke to saying, for example, that he believed Donald Trump would bring down the price of groceries, which was a big issue in the election campaign. But one poll, this is a Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll, has his approval rating at just 39%.
Such a low approval rating at this point, for a president at 100 days. George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton had higher approval ratings. And so, Donald Trump has dismissed that poll, I should say. They often, the White House under Donald Trump, they don't take a lot of these polls seriously. But in terms of how representative Texas is, bear in mind, as I say, it is a deeply conservative state. The last time a Democrat won here was Jimmy Carter. So that gives you a sense of how long ago that was. And what we have found is that, yes, you get people who are worried about the economy. They're worried about some of the things that are happening. And there are some issues around immigration. But overall, so far, people think that it's been 100 days, let's give it some time, going to stand by him, see what happens. So, there are parts of Texas which are definitely left-leaning, where there are people who didn't vote for Donald Trump. They were worried about what he was going to do, and they're seeing that play out now. But like I say, a lot of the people that we spoke to, the number one issue really was the economy, but they are waiting to see if indeed the president will stick to that big promise that he made. He made it many times that he would get the cost of living down.